Welcome to the Massachusetts General Hospital informational video about our Adult Endocrine Fellowship Training Program. I'm Beverly Biller, the Fellowship Program Training Director, and joining me today will be 4 other faculty: Jose Flores, the Diabetes Unit and Endocrine Division Chief; Janet Lowe, Associate Program Director; Karen Miller, the Neuroendocrine Unit Chief and Director of the Research portion of the MGH Endocrine Fellowship; and finally, Joy Tsai, the other Associate Program Director. I'd like to mention that all 5 of us are products of the MGH Endocrine Training Program. We were all fellows here at one time or another. We're going to start with Jose telling you about our division, and then I will give you an overview of the first year of our fellowship program. After that, Dr. Lowe will tell you about how we help our fellows choose their mentors and their research programs, followed by Dr. Miller describing more about those research years. And then finally, Dr. Tsai will give you more information about the outpatient clinics in which our fellows participate. So let's start with Jose.
Hello and welcome. My name is Jose Flores and I'm the Chief of the Endocrine Division and the Diabetes Unit here at the Massachusetts General Hospital. First, congratulations on your interest in a wonderful specialty. As you get to know us, you will see that we very much appreciate taking care of people with endocrine disease, diagnosing them, caring for them, and advancing knowledge in this area, and that we find human physiology a fascinating endeavor. And also, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to visit with us today. We hope to really open a genuine and authentic window into our division. So first, a brief description. Composed of over 70 clinical and research faculty members, we are one of the largest endocrine divisions in the country. Rooted in a storied tradition that goes all the way back to Fuller Albright, an endocrine giant, we are privileged and fortunate to stand at the forefront of endocrine care, endocrine research, and endocrine education. We are configured in 5 different units that span thematic areas. We have an endocrine unit that focuses on bone and mineral metabolism and is led by Unit Chief Dr. Michael Manstadt. We have a neuroendocrine unit focused on pituitary disease that is led by Unit Chief Dr. Karen Miller. A metabolism unit that deals with metabolism, with obesity, nutrition, atherosclerosis, and specifically HIV lipodystrophy, and that is directed by Dr. Stephen Greenspoon. We have a reproductive endocrine unit that deals with male and female infertility, polycystic ovary syndrome, disorders of menopause, and is led by Dr. Stephanie Seminar. And finally, a diabetes unit, which I lead, that treats people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes, monogenic diabetes, atypical diabetes, and also advanced technology. Within these units, we have thriving clinical practices in thyroid, in lipids, and a weight center. All of these units work very closely together and are very well integrated, where we collaborate across units in research projects, we share patients, and we work shoulder to shoulder in the education of our fellows. There's maybe 3 particular features of our division that I would like to highlight. Number 1, we're comprehensive. We span the full arc from fundamental discovery in biology all the way to clinical translation, including genetics, animal and cellular models, human physiology, clinical trials, implementation science, clinical outcomes, and population science. We're also diverse. We're diverse in our approach, diverse in the specific area of endocrinology that we focus on. We are diverse in our demographics, diverse in our career paths. We really believe that diversity enriches the whole enterprise. And finally, we are mission-driven. We are completely aligned with our hospital's mission across its 4-pronged areas of community service, patient care, research, and education. We believe that diversity, inclusion, and equity are fundamental. We really do see our place in society and realize that we need to contribute to form a more just and fair world. And with that edifice of our endocrine division, we have the crown jewel of our fellowship program. Its goal is clear and simple: to train tomorrow's leaders in endocrinology. We hope that as you visit, you consider joining us in this exciting journey of care and discovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Our fellowship has as its stated goal to train academic endocrinologists. We have a 3-year fellowship program preparing physicians for careers in academic endocrinology. in any kind of work, any kind of subspecialty, doing any kind of research or educational or clinical care. The first year is devoted completely to consultative and ambulatory clinical experiences. The second and third years provide in-depth research experience using a mentored-based model. Here you see in this picture 2 recent graduates who are now endocrine faculty in the diabetes unit, Dr. Miriam Udler and Dr. Camille Poe. Our fellowship is conducted within the context of the remarkable Massachusetts General Hospital, where our mission is that, guided by the needs of our patients and their families, we aim to deliver the very best healthcare in a safe, compassionate environment to advance that care through innovative research and education, and to improve the health and well-being of the diverse communities we serve. At MGH, we believe that because of diversity, we will excel. Through inclusion, we will respect. And focused on equity, we will serve, heal, educate, and innovate. What makes the MGH Endocrine Fellowship special? I would say it's these 3 things. First, the people. And by people, I mean many things. The patients that we have the privilege to serve, who may come from across the street or across the country. The fellows that we are fortunate to attract, and from whom we always learn a lot. And the faculty. There are over 70 faculty in the division, and about 40 directly teach the first-year fellows, with others serving as research mentors in the upper years. Secondly, I would say the resources. There are incredible research options at Mass General for our fellows, and they can also tap into the resources across the city of Boston, choosing to do their research with any mentor that they would like. Finally, what makes the fellowship special is the structure of the program, where we really have an amazing first clinical year that I'll be telling you about in more detail shortly, followed by the mentor-based research in any topic that the fellow chooses for their second and third year, and that they have continuity clinic across all 3 of those years that really helps our fellows see the natural history of endocrine diseases and their management. So let's focus now on the first year of the MGH Endocrine Fellowship. It is an outstanding clinical experience. Our fellows see the most common bread and butter type of disorders because we are a general hospital. That's our middle name, Massachusetts General Hospital. And so we take care of patients in the surrounding communities with many primary care providers here who then ask us to help with endocrine conditions. But we're also a tertiary care center delivering ultra subspecialized care. So patients fly in from other states, even other countries, to get an opinion about their rare endocrine condition. So our fellows also get to see the rarest of the rare zebras, along with the common bread and butter conditions. So the day starts for our first-year fellows, all of them together. Our fellows do not rotate to other hospitals. Everything they do is here at Mass General. And they begin each day, all 4 of them, discussing the consults they received the day before. And so what this means is that all of them learn from each other's consults, because they don't just hear about and discuss with the faculty their own cases. They get to hear all of the cases that have come in to first-year fellows each day. Those morning rounds also include a pair of faculty members intentionally chosen to be from 2 different subspecialty areas of expertise. Perhaps one rotation there'll be a thyroid expert with a calcium and bone expert, and 2 weeks later, when the faculty change, it might be a reproductive endocrine expert with a diabetes expert. And across the year, these pairs of faculty rotate through those morning rounds so that our fellows are exposed to a lot of subspecialty expertise. But it also means that they're exposed to a lot of different teaching styles. And over the course of that year, they can start to think about what style they think is best for them. They have the chance to try them out with the Harvard medical students who rotate through, sometimes visiting medical students, as well as residents who rotate through our elective, providing lots of teaching opportunities for our fellows. This colorful page shows you a typical week of the first-year fellows experience. And the experience continues throughout the year. As I mentioned, fellows don't rotate to other hospitals, so they have a common experience for the entire first year. The green boxes depict what I've just talked about, those morning rounds with the fellows together with 2 faculty and perhaps some students or residents. What kind of consults do the fellows receive during their first year? This is a pie chart that shows you the tremendous variety of inpatient consults, from diabetes to thyroid to lipids to calcium disorders, adrenal disorders, pituitary conditions, and so on. This pie chart was made by one of our current fellows when she was really struck by the wide array of cases that our first-year fellows see. Moving down on the typical week page, we look at yellow next. So yellow depicts all of the clinics that our fellows participate in. Each fellow's schedule is shown in just one color. So let's pick out Fellow 2, shown in purple. Fellow 2 on Monday afternoon goes to diabetes clinic, and then every Wednesday morning is in thyroid clinic. Endocrine and bone clinic is Wednesday afternoon. For this fellow, they're in the neuroendocrine and pituitary tumor clinical center clinic on Thursday afternoon. And on Friday morning, this fellow is in reproductive endocrine clinic. So each of the fellows has a similar schedule, but the order of the clinics and locations just differs from one fellow to the next. Each fellow has 5 weekly clinics: diabetes, endocrine, which is calcium and bone, pituitary, reproductive endocrine, and thyroid. And once a month, they also have lipid clinic. In those clinics, their preceptors are expert in that subspecialty content area. So for example, in diabetes clinic, all of the faculty preceptors are diabetologists. In the thyroid clinic, they're all thyroidologists, and so on. One of the important points about the outpatient clinics is that the patients belong to the fellows. We really want the patients to identify the fellow as their doctor, because we believe that is the best learning experience for the fellows. If a fellow sees a patient in the hospital for a consult and they need follow-up, the patient is scheduled back to that same fellow. So for example, let's say that a fellow sees a patient with Cushing's or acromegaly who has transsphenoidal surgery by one of our expert pituitary surgeons and then needs to come back at the 6 to 8 week checkup. That patient will be scheduled to see the same fellow in their pituitary clinic, providing continuity not only for the fellow, but also, very importantly, for the patient. This slide depicts the neuroendocrine and pituitary tumor clinical center dynamic test room, where the nurse performs many stimulation and suppression tests that our fellows learn about, as well as teaching patients how to give themselves injections if they need to take self-administered medications. Upper year fellows continue 1 half-day a week in clinic. They continue in their own area of research. So if they've decided to do basic diabetes research or diabetes outcomes research, for example, they will keep their diabetes patients for their entire 2nd and 3rd year so that they will have 3 full years of seeing the same patients. Many fellows are interested in keeping another clinic. For example, they may have loved their thyroid clinic or their osteoporosis patients, and so they can alternate every other week the research-related clinic and their other clinic of interest. Upper year fellows can also do electives once a month if they wish, and there are several options for that. They can see patients in the weight center, in the transgender health center, or in the diabetes and pregnancy clinic. This slide depicts the front door of the neuroendocrine and pituitary tumor clinical center. I selected that particular door amongst all the clinics because that's where I see patients each week. And you can see in the background behind the desk Mr. Rodney Lomax, who's our patient service coordinator and who has won awards from patients for being so outstanding. Dr. Joy Tsai will be back with you in a few minutes to tell you more about the outpatient clinics. Finally, look at the blue in this typical first-year fellows week. The blue depicts the many conferences that our fellows attend as well as deliver. So this is a list of the core curriculum conference series in which our fellows participate. They have the opportunity to learn at the conferences and also to teach us, often choosing one of their most interesting cases and diving into the literature about that particular topic. The fellows give endocrine grand rounds each year, which is held in the room that you see shown here. This was formerly an operating theater in the hospital and is now a National Historic Landmark because it's the first place that anesthesia was ever administered. But it's also, in addition to being a National Historic Landmark, our endocrine grand rounds location. What about some practical things like call and vacation? Well, call is only taken by first-year fellows. The upper-year fellows really need to focus on their research, and so we relieve them from any call responsibilities, except perhaps 2 or 3 days a year if the first-year fellows are at a retreat or happen to have scheduled their medicine boards all for the same day. We would ask upper-year fellows to cover, but they're not scheduled for any routine coverage at all. The first-year fellows make up their own call schedule. We let them decide how they want to do that, as long as they don't violate any of the ACGME work hour rules. Usually, though, it means every fourth night and every fourth weekend. Fellows get 4 weeks of vacation, and they can spend up to $1,000 if they'd like to attend a meeting or get a journal subscription or obtain some new computer equipment, and so on. In addition to the fun of seeing great inpatients and having terrific outpatient clinics, our fellows do have a life outside of work, and they also tend to form close friendships with each other. And this picture shows you the last several years of endocrine fellows having fun outside of work. And so that brings me to let you know that if you're not familiar with Boston, this is a great city. There's really something for everyone here. If you like sports, we have world-class teams that have won championships. If you're someone who likes music or theater, there are terrific performances available. There's lots of history in Boston. If you're an outdoors person, there are running and hiking and biking trails. And of course, we have the Boston Marathon. And just a short drive away, there are beaches and ski slopes, depending which is your preferred season. We also have lots of terrific museums to explore. Art museums, science museums. There's a children's museum, which reminds me to tell you that there's an Endocrine Division Parental Wellness Committee. The mission of this group is to support faculty and fellows who are navigating this new aspect of life. You see on the right side of the slide here, the members of the Parental Wellness Committee shown with their families. Next, we're going to turn to thinking about the second and third year of the fellowship, that mentored-based research that I've been mentioning, as well as the continuity clinic. And so I'm going to hand it over in succession to 3 people who will introduce each other in turn. Dr. Janet Lowe will tell you about how we help our fellows select a mentor for their research years. And then Dr. Karen Miller will give you details about those research years. Finally, Dr. Joy Tsai will talk to you more about the outpatient clinics that our upper year fellows participate in. I'll be back at the end with a couple of more slides to finish up, including telling you what graduates do after our fellowship program. Janet?
Hello. As you heard from Dr. Biller, after the first clinical year, the second and third years of the MGH Endocrine Fellowship are focused on mentor-based research training. During the first year, our fellows are taking care of patients with diverse endocrine diseases, providing exposure to a broad range of endocrine pathology, and therefore ample opportunity for fellows to determine which areas of endocrinology may be of greatest interest to them. Following their clinical and scientific interests, fellows then explore potential areas of endocrinology in which they wish to pursue in-depth research. To help provide guidance during this time of exploration, first-year fellows will meet with each of the unit chiefs in the endocrine, diabetes, neuroendocrine, metabolism, and reproductive endocrine units as a group during the summer of their first year to hear about the active areas of research in each unit. In the fall, unit chiefs meet with the fellows one-on-one to hear what the fellow is interested in most, and based on that, suggest other people they may benefit from meeting with. In addition to these conversations with the unit chiefs, first-year fellows are encouraged to meet with individual potential mentors to learn more about their research, to help identify a mentor that is right for them. After meeting with the unit chiefs and potential mentors, first-year fellows will then choose a research mentor during the middle of the first year. One of the strengths of our training program is the breadths and depths of research in a large variety of different areas of endocrinology, and also the different types of research, including basic science, clinical, translational, genetics, and other types of research. The research years are an exciting time to obtain training in new research techniques and immerse oneself in a meaningful research project. Here at MGH, you will find wonderful diversity of research opportunities across Harvard, and you would have complete flexibility in choosing whatever type of research you are interested in and in whatever endocrine content area that inspires you. I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Karen Miller. Dr. Miller is the chief of the neuroendocrine unit and directs the research portion of the fellowship. In addition to your research mentor, you will also meet regularly with Dr. Miller with the camaraderie of the second and third year fellows together to discuss important topics related to research and also career development. And now you will hear from Dr. Miller.
Thanks, Dr. Lowe. I'm the director of the research portion of the fellowship, which takes place years 2 and 3 and is supported by an NIH training grant, which provides a large portion of your salary during those 2 years. As you just heard from Janet, after meeting with the unit chiefs and different potential mentors during the fall of your first fellowship year, you'll decide on a research mentor for the research portion of your fellowship. Then, during years 2 and 3 of the fellowship, you will work with that mentor on one or more research projects. During that time period, I will also lead monthly group meetings with you and your co-fellows. In addition to covering the nuts and bolts of the requirements of the research portion of the fellowship, we will explore topics such as grant opportunities, the path to an academic research career, other career options such as a clinical career, a clinical educator career, and a career in industry, negotiating your first job, effective data presentation, and other topics. We'll also invite guest speakers who can provide perspective on these and other topics to some of our meetings. You'll also have periodic one-on-one meetings with me so that I can make sure that all is going according to plan and to provide me with the opportunity to help you with any issues that might have arisen. Our aim is to set you up for success in an academic research career if that's what you want, and for a great research experience that will inform and enhance your future career if you choose another path. During the second and third years of the fellowship, you'll also continue continuity outpatient experience. And before Dr. Joy Tsai tells you about that, I'd like to mention one other program that I've been involved in creating with a group of our faculty and fellows. That's our Endocrine Division Parental Wellness Program. We welcome parents and parents-to-be to our fellowship and faculty. We couldn't be more thrilled for those of you who choose this as part of your life. We know from experience how wonderful this aspect of life can be, and also that juggling parenting and work can be really challenging. We therefore now have a program in place to provide one-on-one coaching to help with practical advice to ease the transition back to work, a clinical coverage plan, a private Endocrine Division parenting social media group, and grants for lactation support and help at home. With that, I'll say how very thrilled I am to be so involved in this wonderful fellowship, which I graduated from years ago, as many of us did. And I'll hand it over to Dr. Joy Tsai.
Hello, my name is Joy Tsai, and I am one of the Associate Program Directors. I'm pleased to give you further details about our ambulatory clinics. As Dr. Biller reviewed, the schedules differ between the first year and the upper year fellows. As a review for the first year fellows, there are 6 subspecialty clinics. So if you're a first year fellow, a typical schedule would consist of 5 weekly clinics, which are the Diabetes Center, the Endocrine Associates Clinic, which has a focus on bone health and calcium cases, the Neuroendocrine and Pituitary Tumor Clinical Center, the Reproductive Endocrine Clinic, and the Thyroid Associates Clinic. The 6th subspecialty clinic is a monthly lipid clinic. Because we want the fellows to develop strong patient-provider relationships, patients will belong to the fellow and continue to see the same fellow as long as the fellow remains in the clinic. And as a former fellow myself, I can even attest that I continue to see the same patients that I saw as a fellow. We believe that these 6 subspecialty clinics will form the outpatient foundation for your fellowship education and provide you with exposure to a wide variety of clinical cases. And then as you continue in your 2nd and 3rd year of fellowship and shift your focus to research, your clinics will complement your research experience. The fellows usually keep 1 or 2 continuity clinics, of which one is usually related to their research and the other to another area of clinical interest. We also have optional electives for the upper year fellows, which include obesity medicine, transgender health, and pregnancy and diabetes. Of note, for each of the 3 years of fellowship, the fellows are assigned to work with the same preceptor or preceptors within each subspecialty clinic. We encourage the preceptors to discuss the cases with the fellows in person, whether or not the clinic visit is scheduled as an in-person visit with the patient or a virtual video visit. We're very proud to have a strong infrastructure for telehealth within the overall Endocrine Division and ensure that there are ample resources for the fellows to conduct virtual visits as needed. In summary, I'm confident that these described clinics would provide you with an exceptional educational experience, and I'm very excited that you're considering our fellowship. With that, I'll hand it back to Dr. Beverly Biller.
Thank you so much, Janet and Karen and Joy. Now I'll finish up by telling you just a couple more things. We are often asked, what do graduates do after they complete the fellowship at Mass General? This page shows you where our graduates are now from the last several years of graduating classes. You can see at a glance that a lot of them are still here, and that shows you how much people who have trained at MGH enjoy being at MGH. Many of us stay. If you ask the question, how many of the faculty were fellows at MGH? The answer is over 90% of us were fellows here, and we never left. But there are sometimes reasons that people do need to leave, whether it's that they have family members in another part of the country, or they're seeking a different type of lab or want to run a program themselves. And if that's the case, there are terrific positions available to our fellows. We have had our graduates embark upon jobs with basic research or clinical research, running programs themselves. Many have moved to clinician educator roles or clinical practice roles. The important point is that graduates from our program are highly sought after. And so our graduates have many choices about what to do after their fellowship. I want to finish up by telling you what some of our graduates have said was the best thing about their training here. We recently had a reunion of all of our fellows, and we asked them just to jot down what was the best thing about being here. Expert faculty, so available and dedicated to teaching and mentoring, was something that was highlighted by many of our graduates, as was access to a fantastic mix of patients. There was a mention of the diversity of clinical experience and the ability to have a true apprenticeship, both for research and clinical education. The rigor of the clinical experience, particularly those morning rounds with all 4 fellows, was highlighted, as well as the rigor of the research opportunities and experience. But perhaps the most common answer was my fellow fellows being the best thing about the program, because long-lasting friendships are forged during our fellowship program. So I'd like to thank you for watching the Mass General Hospital informational video about our Endocrine Fellowship Training Program, and we'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.